My name is Sam, and at 28, I finally stopped paying to be loved. For years, a forensic auditor, had meticulously traced financial fraud everywhere, but in my own family, believing their love was unconditional. That changed at my mother's birthday dinner in a Baltimore firehouse when my brother, Ethan, smirked and mocked my generosity. Some people just love being needed, even when they're not. Everyone turned to me, expecting me to swallow it, but I didn't. What did I just expose? 3 minutes after I froze the account funding his entire life, his face drained of color. Suddenly, his rent, truck, and utilities vanished. I saw the truth. He wasn't just struggling. He was completely dependent on me, and they all knew it. My mother, her pearl earrings shaking, was caught off guard, never suspecting that her silence would trigger such a swift, catastrophic unraveling. Before I tell you what happened next, if you enjoy stories about justice and family boundaries, take a second to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely connect with the story. Where are you watching from right now? And what time is it there? Drop a comment and let me know. My name is Samantha Whitaker, but everyone in my family calls me Sam. I was 28 years old the night I finally stopped paying to be loved. I had spent 6 years building a career as a forensic construction auditor, the kind of job where I traced missing money through subcontractor invoices, insurance claims, fake repairs, and carefully hidden lies. I could spot a padded bill from across a conference table, but somehow for years I refused to audit my own family. That changed at a birthday dinner inside a restored brick firehouse near Baltimore Harbor, where one long table had been decorated with ivory candles, gold-rimmed plates, and a cake none of us would end up eating. The room was full of relatives laughing too loudly, acting like we were normal, while my phone kept buzzing with overdraft warnings from an account I had funded but never used for myself. Then my brother lifted his glass and smirked like he had practiced the line in a mirror. Some people just love being needed, even when they're not. Everyone turned to me, not with shock, with expectation, like they already knew I would swallow it, smile, and keep paying. I raised my glass and said, "Good news, then I'm not." Then I pulled out my phone, opened the banking app, and froze the transfer account that had covered his rent, his truck payment, his utilities, and bills he claimed were temporary. My mother leaned toward me and whispered, "What did you just do?" I smiled. 3 minutes later, my brother checked his phone, and all the color left his face. Before I tell you what he said, and what happened after I walked out, tell me, what time is it for you right now? And where are you watching from? I'm curious to see how far this story will travel. The first thing Ethan Whitaker did was laugh, but it sounded wrong. Too sharp, too forced, like a man trying to pretend the floor had not just vanished under him. He stared at his phone, refreshed the banking app, then looked at me with a face I had never seen before. "Sam," he said, his voice low. "What is this?" My mother, Victoria Whitaker, stepped between us with her pearl earrings shaking and her birthday sash slipping off one shoulder. "Samantha, fix whatever you just did." "Not what happened."
Not.
"Why did you do that?" "Just fix it. Fix him. Fix the mood. Fix the family lie before anyone noticed how rotten it had become." I set my glass down carefully. I froze the emergency account. I said the one I created for actual emergencies. Somehow Ethan's rent, truck, utilities, and last-minute disasters became emergencies every month. A cousin looked down at his plate. Someone stopped chewing. Ethan stepped closer, lowering his voice like he could still bully me privately in a public room. "You don't get to embarrass me at Mom's birthday." I looked at him. "You embarrassed yourself when you mocked the person paying your bills." His jaw tightened. "Nobody asked you to play savior." "No, I said you just kept sending invoices." That landed. I saw it in the way several relatives avoided his eyes. For years, everyone treated Ethan's helplessness like bad weather. Inconvenient, constant, nobody's fault. But now, the numbers had a face. Ethan pointed at me. "You think you're better because you inspect buildings and fly around with your little laptop?" "I investigate fraud," I said, "which is why this conversation is overdue." His face shifted for half a second.
Guilt.
I knew that look. I saw it in contractors caught padding invoices. My grandfather, Harold Whitaker, sat at the far end of the table, silent under the old firehouse mural, his cane resting against his knee. Then he stood, the chair scraped across the floor, and the whole room turned. "Boy," he said to Ethan, "sit down before you mistake volume for manhood." Ethan froze. Nobody spoke to him like that. Not anymore. Harold looked at me. "Samantha, did you pay for the roof repair last fall?" I nodded. "Yes, the preschool deposit?" "Yes, the truck transmission." Ethan snapped. "Grandpa, stay out of this." Harold's cane struck the floor once. "I stayed out too long. That was my mistake." My mother whispered, "Dad, please." But Harold was not done. "Ethan, love does not mean letting your sister carry the weight you refuse to lift." Ethan looked around the table, realizing the room was no longer fully on his side. "So, this is it," he said. "Everybody gangs up on me now." I looked straight at him. "If the truth feels like an attack, maybe you should ask why you needed so many lies to survive." Ethan's anger changed shape. It stopped being loud and became calculated. He leaned back, folded his arms, and smiled without warmth. "Fine, since we're exposing people, let's talk about Dad's money." The room went hollow. My father had died when I was 17, leaving behind grief, medical debt, and a private trust meant to help me finish school, build a future, and escape the cycle my family kept dragging me back into. It was not a fortune. It was protection. "How do you know about that?" I asked. Ethan's eyes flicked to our mother. Too fast, too obvious. Victoria looked away. My stomach dropped. "Mom," I said quietly, "you showed him." She pressed her lips together, but no denial came. Ethan rushed in. "She was worried. You were sitting on money while I was drowning." "You weren't drowning. I said you were spending." His smile vanished. "You don't know that. I know more than you think." For months, I had been saving screenshots, transfers, excuses, and missing receipts. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I needed proof I was not imagining the pattern. The same urgent texts, the same fake emergencies, the same promises that this would be the last time. "That inheritance was not yours." I said it was not Mom's. "It was not a family rescue fund for every choice you refused to own." Ethan slammed his hand on the table. "Dad would have helped me." Harold's voice cut through the room. "Your father helped people who helped themselves." Ethan turned red. "Don't act like you know what he wanted." Harold leaned forward. "I knew my son better than you knew his wallet." My mother began crying. "Sam, I only told him because he felt left behind." "So instead of telling him to build a life, you handed him a reason to target mine." Then my phone buzzed. An unknown number. The message read, "Please don't tell Ethan I contacted you, but he owes my husband money, too. He said you were covering it after the inheritance cleared. He used your name." I looked up at Ethan. "Did you borrow money using my name?" His face strained. Lauren Whitaker, Ethan's wife, had been standing near the doorway, quiet until now. "What debts?" she asked. Ethan spun around. "Lauren, not now." Her voice shook. "No, right now." She held up her own phone. The mortgage company called. They said the extension was denied because the documents were inconsistent. Ethan told me Sam was handling it. Every eye returned to me. I shook my head. "I never touched your mortgage." Lauren's lips parted in shock. I turned back to Ethan. "So freezing that account didn't just stop what I paid for. It exposed what you lied about." Harold stepped beside me and said, "Samantha, tell them everything." So I did. I did not scream. That was what scared Ethan most. He understood shouting. He understood tears. He understood emotional chaos because chaos made details disappear. So I gave them details. I opened the folder on my phone labeled temporary help and read the dates one by one. February 3rd, $1,200 for rent. February 18th, $800 for a truck repair. No invoice ever sent. March 6th, preschool deposit paid directly because the school had issued a final notice. March 23rd, $2,500 for a mortgage bridge that never reached the mortgage company. April 11th, $900 for utilities even though Lauren had already paid them. May 1st, $3,000 into the emergency account, followed by 2 withdrawals from a casino ATM outside Delaware Park. Lauren covered her mouth. "Casino?" Ethan snapped. I was trying to win money back. Somehow that made it worse. I kept going. 3 people contacted me in the last 2 months. All said Ethan claimed I was backing his debts. 1 former coworker, 1 relative on Lauren's side, 1 contractor from the townhouse repair. Ethan lunged toward me, but Harold's cane came down hard between us. "1 more step," he said, "and you'll explain yourself to police instead of family." Ethan stopped. My mother whispered, "I didn't know about the gambling." Lauren looked at her. "But you knew he was taking from Sam." Victoria said nothing. That silence answered for her. Ethan looked around, desperate. "I was going to pay her back when things turn around." I almost laughed. "With what?" "The job you quit, the side business that never existed, the inheritance you thought you could shame me into sharing." Harold's voice turned heavy. "Your father left Samantha that trust because he saw this coming. He worried she'd become the family's spare adult after he died." My throat tightened. For years, I had wondered if protecting the trust made me selfish. Now I realized my father had been protecting me from the exact room I was standing in. Lauren removed her wedding ring and placed it on the table. The sound was tiny, but it ended something. "I'm taking the kids to my sister's tonight," she said. "Tomorrow, I'm calling the mortgage company myself, and if you forged anything with my signature, I'm calling an attorney." Ethan stared at the ring like it had betrayed him. My mother sobbed. "This is my birthday." I turned to her.
"No, ma'am."
This is the day the bill came due. One cousin stood, left cash for dinner, and walked out. Then another. The party dissolved without shouting, just people quietly refusing to keep participating in the lie. Ethan leaned close and whispered, "You'll regret this." I whispered back, "No, I regret waiting this long." Then I picked up my purse, walked past the untouched cake, and left with Harold beside me. 3 days later, my mother called from Harold's phone because I was still not answering hers. "Please come to 1 therapy session," she said. I almost refused. In our family, therapy had always sounded like a polite way to soften consequences, but Harold wanted to be there and that meant something. So, the next Thursday, I walked into Dr. Marissa Bell's office in Towson with a folder in my bag and no intention of being guilted into silence. Ethan was already there in a clean button-down, sitting beside my mother like a man dressed for sympathy. Lauren sat across from him, no ring on her finger. Harold sat near the window.
Dr.
Bell said the goal was restoration. Ethan nodded eagerly. Restoration to him meant getting his old access back. To me, it meant accountability.
He spoke first.
"I'm sorry things got heated," he said. "I made mistakes, but Sam humiliated me instead of helping me privately. I felt attacked. Sometimes judgment pushes people into worse choices." It was almost impressive. He had turned theft into sadness, lies into pressure, and exposure into cruelty.
Dr. Bell looked at me.
"Samantha." I opened my folder. Ethan's face changed. "What is that?" "Clarity," I said. I placed copies on the table, bank transfers, screenshots, messages from creditors, and a timeline of every payment I could prove. "Every time I bring feelings," I said, "this family turns them against me, so I brought documents." Dr. Bell scanned the pages, and her tone shifted. "Ethan, this appears to go beyond family conflict." Lauren leaned forward. "Start with the mortgage." Ethan muttered, "I was trying to protect you." Lauren laughed through tears by lying until I almost lost my home. I slid forward another page. Withdrawals from hotels, bars, and a jewelry store. Lauren stared at it. "Jewelry store?" Ethan whispered. "Sam, don't." I looked at Lauren. "I'm sorry. A woman named Kelsey messaged me. She said Ethan told her he was separated and waiting on family money." Lauren read the screenshot twice. Her hands did not shake. That made it worse. Ethan exploded. "This is therapy, not a trial." I said in a trial there would be subpoenas. Dr. Bell told him to sit down for once. Someone outside the family named his intimidation in real time. Then I pulled out the final document. "This is a repayment and accountability agreement. An attorney drafted it." Ethan stared. "You lawyered up against your own brother?" "No," I said. "I protected myself from a man who used being my brother as legal camouflage." The agreement required monthly payments, proof of income, no use of my name or trust in any financial promise, full disclosure to Lauren, individual counseling, and no requests for money from me. Any violation would trigger civil action. Ethan's face burned red. You want to ruin me? No, I said. I want ruining me to stop being an option. Harold leaned forward. Sign it or don't. But if you refuse, I'll help Samantha pursue every legal route available. Ethan looked at him. You'd choose her over me? Harold answered. I'm choosing truth over rot. Ethan picked up the pen. For 1 second, I saw the little boy who used to steal cookies and blame me. The teenager who broke my bike and called me selfish for crying. The grown man who turned need into a weapon. Then he signed. Not because he was sorry, because for the first time being sorry was cheaper than lying. People imagine revenge as one perfect moment. The villain exposed, the hero walking away, the room applauding. Real revenge is slower. It arrives in envelopes, court notices, changed locks, unanswered calls, and the stunned silence of someone realizing the world does not bend for them anymore. The first month after therapy, Ethan tried every old door. He called me from new numbers. He sent messages that began with rage and ended with desperation. You're destroying my family. The kids need stability. You know I'm good for it. Dad would hate what you've become. I did not answer. Every message went into a folder labeled record. Lauren filed for legal separation and moved with the children to her sister's house in Annapolis. She did not do it dramatically. She did it efficiently, which frightened Ethan more. He could argue with tears. He could charm chaos. He could not manipulate a woman who had turned her heartbreak into a checklist. She called the mortgage company herself and discovered the house was further behind than she had known. Ethan had intercepted letters, deleted emails, and once signed her initials on a hardship form. She called an attorney. Then the former coworker he owed money to filed a small claims case. Then the contractor demanded payment. Then the casino withdrawals became part of Lauren's financial affidavit. Every lie Ethan had stacked to stay upright began collapsing sideways onto another lie. My mother did not handle it well. For 2 weeks, she tried to make me soften. She sent photos of the twins. She left voicemails saying they missed their aunt. I finally responded with one sentence. I love them too much to teach them that women exist to absorb men's consequences. After that, she went quiet. Harold later told me she cried in his kitchen for an hour, then asked him something she had never asked before. Did I make him this way? Harold told her the truth. You helped.
So did I.
So did grief. But Ethan chose what to do with the help. My mother started therapy alone the following week. That was the consequence I never expected. Not just Ethan losing his safety net, but my mother losing her favorite excuse. Meanwhile, I made my own move with the inheritance Ethan had tried to weaponize. I used part of it to launch a small independent audit consultancy focused on construction fraud for homeowners and small businesses dealing with dishonest contractors. I named it Harbor Ledger. Not flashy, not emotional, just mine. At the opening, I invited Harold, Lauren, and a few friends. I did not invite my mother because we were still rebuilding. I did not invite Ethan because boundaries are not announcements. They are locked doors. Harold stood near the window of my tiny office, looking at the framed business license.
Your father would have liked this, he said.
I swallowed hard because it's practical. Because it's yours. That meant more than any revenge fantasy. Still, Ethan heard about it. Of course, a cousin posted a photo online. That night, he called 17 times. I listened to one voicemail because my attorney told me to save everything. His voice was ragged. So, that's it. You used Dad's money to start a company while my life falls apart. I almost deleted it. Instead, I saved it. His life was not falling apart because I started a company. His life was falling apart because the people holding the walls finally stepped back. By the end of the second month, Ethan's truck was repossessed. Without my payments, the insurance lapsed. Then the loan company acted. He lost a warehouse supervisor opportunity when the employer ran a background check and found the small claims filing.
He blamed me for that, too.
Even though I had not filed it, the coworker had. Consequences were multiplying without my help. Now that is the part nobody tells you. Once you stop protecting someone from reality, Reality does not need your assistance. It is very capable. The townhouse went into a short sale. Laura negotiated to protect her credit as much as possible and moved forward with divorce proceedings after discovering more messages from Kelsey and at least one other woman. Ethan begged her to wait. She said, "I waded through lies. I'm done wading through proof." My mother finally cut off his access to her credit card after Harold found a charge for a gaming console Ethan claimed was for the kids. Though the kids were not living with him, Victoria called me that night, not to ask me to fix it, but to say, "I'm sorry. I made your strength easier to use than his weakness was to confront." I sat on my kitchen floor and cried after that call. Not because everything was healed, because an apology without a demand attached felt almost unfamiliar. 3 months after the birthday dinner, Ethan got a job loading freight during the early shift at a distribution warehouse outside Glen Burnie. It was honest work, hard work, and for once, nobody in the family mocked it. Harold said, "A paycheck is a beginning if he treats it like one." Ethan hated that job at first. He complained about his back, his manager, the hours, the smell of cardboard dust in his clothes. But the repayment agreement did not care about his pride. His first payment to me was $175, a pathetic amount compared to what he owed. A priceless amount compared to every promise he had broken. I did not thank him. I simply confirmed receipt. That boundary mattered. Gratitude would have turned responsibility into a favor. Around that same time, Dr. Bell requested one more joint session to review family communication. I agreed only after confirming Ethan had made 2 payments and Lauren would attend voluntarily. The second session was nothing like the first. Ethan looked smaller, not physically, but socially. Without everyone orbiting his crisis, he had no gravity. He admitted some things, not all. He still minimized. He still said mistakes when he meant choices. But when he tried to blame me for Lauren leaving, Lauren interrupted.
No, Ethan.
Sam exposed the fire. "You lit it," he cried then, and this time nobody rushed to rescue him from embarrassment. My mother held a tissue in her own lap and did not offer it. Harold watched like a judge who had already sentenced the crime, but still hoped the criminal might become human again. Dr. Bell asked me what I needed from Ethan. The old me would have said, "I just want my brother back." But I had learned that sometimes the person you miss was not real. They were a version of someone built from your hope. So I said, "I need distance, repayment, and honesty without expecting closeness as a reward." Ethan whispered. "So, you don't love me anymore?" That question was his oldest weapon. It invited me to prove love by surrendering. I answered carefully, "I love you. I just don't trust you, and I'm no longer confusing those two things." Dr. Bell nodded. Lauren looked down. My mother cried silently. Ethan looked at me as if I had spoken a foreign language. Maybe I had. In our family, love had always meant access. Access to time, access to money, access to forgiveness, access to the softest parts of me. Now love had a lock on it, and I had the key. The final call came 6 months after the birthday dinner. On a rainy Tuesday evening while I was reviewing a fraud claim involving a fake roofing company. Ethan's name appeared on my phone, and for once I answered not because I trusted him because my attorney had closed the first repayment review. Lauren's divorce filing was moving forward. My mother was still in therapy, and I no longer felt like one conversation could drag me back into the old role.
"Sam," he said.
His voice sounded tired, not theatrical. "I'm outside Mom's house." I said nothing. "She won't let me in unless I give her my debit card and show her my payabs. Grandpa told her to do that." I almost smiled. Harold worked quietly, but he worked. Ethan breathed into the phone. "I used to think you were trying to beat me, and now I think maybe I kept turning everyone into an enemy, because enemies don't have to be disappointed in you. You can just hate them." That was the first honest sentence he had offered me without being cornered by documents. I let it sit there. Rain tapped against my window. "I'm not calling for money," he added quickly. "I know you won't give it. I'm calling because I found something." My stomach tightened.
"What?"
An old voicemail from Dad on Mom's backup drive.
"It was for both of us, I think. But there was a part about you."
I closed my laptop. What did it say? Ethan was quiet long enough that I thought the call had dropped. Then he said he told Mom not to let you become the family's second parent. He said, "You are a kid, not a spare adult." I pressed my hand over my mouth. For years, I had carried guilt like an heirloom. I thought maybe my father would have wanted me to help more, forgive more, sacrifice more. But the dead had left instructions, and the living had ignored them. Ethan continued, his voice cracking. "I hated you for having a way out, but I think he gave you one because he knew you'd be the only person too loyal to take it." I did cry then, quietly. Not for Ethan. Not exactly. I cried for 17-year-old me, standing in a funeral dress while adults told me I was strong. I cried for every check I wrote, with shaking hands. I cried for every time my mother called me mature when she meant useful. Ethan said, "I'm sorry, Sam. Not the therapy kind, not the caught kind. I'm sorry I made needing me impossible because needing you was easier." I wanted that apology to fix everything. It did not, but it changed the shape of the wound. "Thank you for saying that," I said. He waited, probably hoping for more. The old Sam would have filled the silence with comfort. The new Sam let him stand in it. Finally, he said, "Do you think we'll ever be okay?" I looked around my apartment, at the Harbor Ledger files on my desk, at the framed photo of my father I had finally taken out of storage, at the quiet life I had built after refusing to fund my own destruction. "I think okay is earned," I said, not declared. He exhaled shakily.
Fair.
"Keep paying. Keep working. Keep telling the truth when lying would be easier. Start there. And us." I closed my eyes. Start there too. We hung up without drama. No swelling music. No perfect forgiveness. No family group hug under warm lights. Just a woman ending a call without feeling responsible for the man on the other end. That was my real revenge. Not Ethan losing the house, though he did. Not Lauren leaving, though she had every right. Not the relatives finally seeing him clearly. Not my mother learning to say no. My revenge was becoming unavailable for misuse. My revenge was turning the inheritance he tried to shame me with into a business that protected other people from financial eyes. My revenge was learning that peace does not always arrive when everyone apologizes. Sometimes peace arrives when you stop needing an apology to protect yourself. Months later, at my mother's next birthday, we did not rent a firehouse. We ate dinner in Harold's backyard on paper plates. Ethan came late, wearing his warehouse uniform, tired and quiet. He brought a small grocery store cake he had paid for himself. Nobody clapped for him. Nobody mocked him either. My mother hugged him, then asked if he had brought his updated repayment receipt. He sighed, but he handed it over. That was progress. Not applause, not redemption, just proof. Lauren came separately with the kids. She was not back with him, and nobody pressured her to be. The twins ran around Harold's yard chasing lightning bugs, too young to understand that the adults around them were trying to break a generational pattern before it reached them. Ethan approached me near the fence. "The cake's not as fancy as last year," he said. I looked at the uneven frosting. "No," I said, "but it's honest." He nodded, eyes wet, and walked away before either of us could ruin the moment by asking too much from it. My mother came to stand beside me. "I used to think family meant nobody gets left behind," she said. "Now I think maybe family means nobody gets dragged under." I looked at her, and for the first time in a long time, I saw not the woman who had used me, but the woman who was trying to understand why she had. "That's a better definition," I said. Harold raised his sweet tea from the porch. "Took you all long enough." We laughed, and it did not erase anything that mattered. Real healing does not erase the bill. It teaches everyone who ordered the meal. So if you're listening to this because someone in your family has turned your love into a payment plan, hear me clearly. Helping is generous, but being harvested is not love. Boundaries do not destroy healthy families. They reveal unhealthy systems. If one person's survival depends on your silence, your exhaustion, your savings, and your guilt, that is not loyalty. That is captivity, with family photos on the wall. You are allowed to ask where the money went. You are allowed to stop paying. You are allowed to protect an inheritance, a paycheck, a dream, a future, even from people who share your last name. And when they say nobody needs you, believe them enough to step back. Sometimes the fastest way to learn what you paid for is to stop paying and watch what collapses. So tell me honestly, have you ever been the person your family kept calling strong because they needed you to keep suffering quietly? And if you finally stopped, did they call it betrayal, or did they finally call it truth?